1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast sound check. Royal Blue Live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Welcome to the Friday edition of the Royal Blue Podcast. A big hello to everyone who's watching live on YouTube, as well as those listening on our audio platforms. I'm your host, Ian Croll. We are live in the Royal Blue studio, and joining me to talk all things Everton, we've got Gav Buckland. Gav, just me and you today?
Just me and you, yeah.
How are things? All good?
Fine, thank you. Yeah, I think it's the first time I've been on talking like contemporary Everton for a while. I think the last one was... The last pod before the final game at Bramley Moor.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah. So, by the way, I always like to say, don't I, thanks to everybody who came up to me on the final day and said how much they enjoyed the Royal Blue podcast. I said to give a few names a shout, if that's all right. Mark, Eddie Fitzer, who came over from Canada from the last game.
Wow.
Somebody called Tigger. I'm not sure why. And Steve Riley from Heighton said, and his mate Andy as well. They all came up to me. And lots of other people as well, just thought to give them a mention.
Well, we love the positive feedback, Gav, don't we? And you seem to be getting it quite a lot. Maybe it's just because you're out and about on the streets with everyone.
Well, maybe because I'm like 6'3" and a little bit, you know.
Stand out in the crowd.
Possibly, you know. And, looking a bit aging, you know, possibly, I suspect. But because I do the fan zone as well, don't I, match days?
Absolutely.
And things like that. And so I'm a bit more visible.
Got your fingers in a lot of pies, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, I tell you what, that'll be doing the match day. The fan zone will be different at BMD, won't it?
Yeah.
Compared to Goodison.
Any idea what they're planning on doing? Or?
Well, I'm not sure, but I know that the footprint of it is far bigger. It'll be like doing a stadium concert.
Yeah, it will.
So it'll be slightly different.
What are they calling that area again?
Oh, I don't know.
Like they're just outside Bramley, in between the walls and the stadium. I
don't know.
I'm sure it's got a name. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
And like Connor, you're off on your jollies next week.
Yeah, I'll be off next week for a bit.
You weren't originally meant to be on today, but you've called in a last minute favour, I guess. From you.
Yeah. But no, so it's good. It's good to be on because it's been quite interesting, hasn't it, this week?
Yeah. And your knee? How's your knee? Your knee's
no,
not playing
it's not my knee. It's my thigh. It's something called bursitis, second chondric bursitis, which is something you don't want to get. I don't. It's as painful to spell as what it is to have. So I've just been to physio this morning, and I'm on the way back a little bit. But yeah, you don't want it. But wear and tear, mate. Too many games of football. Too much running. Catch up with you.
Well, yeah. Fingers crossed. Everything gets back in order. I've got that to come, haven't I?
Well, many years down the line.
I've been doing a lot of running lately. I mean, I'm sure the people listening to this don't really care, but I did a 5K yesterday for the first time in just over a week, and I was really tired after it. But my legs and all that seemed okay.
Oh no, it's pedals are getting older, you know. Unfortunately,
we'll move on. We'll quickly.
Yeah, we don't. I don't think people wanted to come onto the podcast to listen to me talking about my bodily functions, did they really?
Absolutely not. Today's agenda then, we'll get into today's agenda. Yeah. Obviously plenty to get through. A lot of transfer news
absolutely
knocking around, and a bit of contract news. Obviously Idrissa Gueye will be hopefully signing his contract today, so we'll talk about that. I mean, football is finished. I guess Newcastle was a couple of days ago now. Are you welcoming the break, happy with the break, or are you a little bit gutted football's over?
I think actually, given the way we finished the season, it would have been handy to have another 3 or 4 games, wouldn't it, really? I thought we were excellent to Newcastle. No, you've had a couple of pods since, but I thought we were really good. Like, considering we had nothing to play for and they had a lot to play for, I thought we put everything into the game. I thought we were the better team, deserved to win. quite comfortably, really. They had a few chances, but not really gilt-edged chances, really. They were long shots, really, from Pickford, saved comfortably. I thought we were really good on the break. Had a lot of the ball. And a couple of players had outstanding games we're going to sign hopefully during the summer, aren't they, really? Gueye, Alcaraz. It's interesting, I sometimes, occasionally, go on to, if we have an away game, go on to a fans forum of the opposition team.
See what they're saying.
Seeing what they're saying. And I did that after the Newcastle game. And considering the live rivalry between the two clubs, they were quite complimentary about Everton.
Yeah.
Particularly Alcaraz. And a couple of them said we should sign him. Pickford got a bit of, credit. And the player who got a load of credit was Beto. Who they said he's not seen a forward work their back line so hard this season as what Beto did on Sunday. Which is always interesting to hear when you listen to the opposition view, which is a lot less coloured than ours, more neutral. And those are the players who got mentioned. And I think Gueye got a mention. I thought he was outstanding on Sunday. I mean, I thought he did. He obviously broke up play really well, but that passage of play, the ball with his left foot over the opposition fullback. I'm
going to be honest, I haven't watched much of it back, if any, because I didn't watch it.
He was outstanding, and it's great to. I mean, after a great start, Moyes had tailed off a little bit, hadn't he? Where you're thinking not one for one game, and
it was that difficult period.
A lot of draws, different game. So it was great to see that after we come out of them draws and stuff, that we ended up with three wins. Albeit I thought we were a little bit lucky at Fulham because I thought we were poor in the first half. But we ended up with 3 wins. Should have been 4, really, shouldn't it, if you count the Ipswich game? And it's taken us to 13th. Few extra bob, and after Premier League placings, and it was great to see at the end of the season played really well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a Newcastle point of view, despite the defeat, they will be extremely happy and positive with the way their season's gone, claiming Champions League, albeit maybe some could say a little bit lucky, but obviously you're saying complimentary about Everton.
And certain players about Everton. So I thought it was a really good win. And a reminder when you see how many teams have got into Europe that it's not, and this favours us, I think, doesn't it? The elite. European football is not necessarily the province of the elite, is it? In English football anymore, because of the way that the coefficients work and stuff like this. So what have you got, 8 or 9 teams in next season? So if you think about the Premier League, is really now a closed shop with 17 clubs, with the 3 who come up invariably going down. Half of them clubs are playing in Europe next season.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you look at, say, the likes of the Conference League and Europa League, which you would hope that we would be aiming for that next season, obviously depending on who we bring in, you would like to think the season after, depending on where we are and who we brought in again, that we would have maybe a very good chance of progressing quite far in that competition.
And you need to make money. I mean, I think Brighton, when they were in Europa League, hardly made a penny, did they? Because the prize money you get is limited until you get to the final stages. And then you've got to pay players bonuses and travelling costs and all this. And the two things can even out. So it's the prestige, isn't it? Especially for a club like us, where, dare I say, compared to Brighton, with all due respect, our boundaries and, our level that we want to aspire to is probably a bit higher. And so it was an interesting end to the campaign, wasn't it, really? And I thought we done well. And there's, as you'll say, there's definitely a possibility next year if we get good transfer business done. Moyes carries on the way he's done so far in the first 5 or 6 months. There's absolutely no reason at all why we can't be knocking around the 8th or 9th place and be in contention for the European spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the good news is we don't have to wait too long for football to return. Wednesday, the 18th of June, is when the Premier League fixtures are to be released at 9 a.m. So it's not that far now till obviously, I guess, pre-season will start in earnest. Football. Well, they got the World, for other teams, World Club Cup, haven't you? Really,
no international, though, is there? And so I mean, it would be. I suppose one of the things, the intriguing thing for us around the fixture list is what's happening with Bramley Moore, isn't it? Because there's obviously been some stories this week around that actually the club made one of its first two away games 2 games being played away from home.
There has been rumours circulating. I heard the first 3 away.
Yeah, which is not unusual. To be fair, I know a few people who are actually away in early August who thought they might miss the first game, who may get an opportunity now to go to the first game of Bramley-Moore if they don't play till like sort of the end of August. So that will be that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Really about how we get, because we've got one more test event, which is a full house, isn't it? Really, how that pans out in terms of the fixture list and what arrangements can be made. So that'll be something to keep an eye on, won't it, over the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Absolutely. Okay, before we move on, I know you always like to bring this up.
Yes.
We have mentioned this on the podcast a couple of times.
Yeah.
So a website called podcast.feedspot.com have placed the Royal Blue podcast as number 1 as the 25 best reach podcast. So the last time we brought this up, I think we were 3rd.
We were in the Champions League places last time, weren't we?
Yeah. We were cemented in that 3rd place in that Champions League place behind the Claret and Blue Aston Villa podcast and the Everything is Black and White Newcastle United podcast. And now we've jumped over them into first place. So to be fair, I only really know about this website because someone who runs it or works for it got in touch with me. To make me aware of it. So I'm taking this as a huge win. And I know you will as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They've entered the season champions,
Exactly. That's a good point, isn't it?
That's it. Our strong end of the season. Mirrored Everton's, really.
Do you think we could get ourselves like a little trophy or something like that?
I think you'd be looking at a bonus for your good self, won't it,
just
really?
Put up on the on the wall there.
Yeah.
On the wall, the blue wall of
should get a trophy, fireworks,
I'd probably
confetti, all that type of stuff.
I'd have to pay for that myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I'd be able to expense that back.
No. But no, it's good. And it's also a reflection, as you always say, you need to have an audience, don't you, as well? And that's a great audience, and that drives our content and asks nice questions. Well, not only awkward questions as well, but all good questions, and so it's a reflection of the audience, not just the people who are on here.
Yeah, well,
but also, as I say, your good self who's been running it and producing it, and
listen,
said the other weeks here.
Thanks for the praise, but we genuinely wouldn't be able to do it without the people who listen and watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks for everyone who does so. Hopefully, within the the new season, we'll continue to bring more content. More shows, and hopefully more. I mean, I can't promise this, but more Everton wins.
The irony being sometimes, this is the whole thing about football. When you've won, there's something less to talk about, isn't it? Really, I mean, let's face it. Over the last couple of years, you've had so much to talk about. I mean, really, not necessarily
off
the field
stuff.
It'll be good, won't it, to have a season of just on the field stuff next year. Hopefully, no distractions.
Absolutely. Well, I can see the comments coming in thick and fast, so I will try to get through a lot of them as we go on. But as always, give us a thumbs up and drop us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We might as well, Gav, start with some good news. I guess we understand Idrissa Gueye will be signing a new deal at Everton. Being one of the standouts of the season and recently winning the Men's and Players Player of the Year awards. Again, we understand an agreement is in place until June 2027. I mean, I've seen a couple of stats on him, and he's made 133 successful tackles in the league this season. That's 10 more than any other player in the top 5 European leagues. I mean, good news for Everton that we can get this one over the line.
It is. I always think the tackles thing, by the way, is talking about this early on the week, is it's a bit distorted. It's one of them stats, it's great, but if you're a team that doesn't have a lot of the ball,
I think that's what it shows as well, doesn't it?
You're going to have, if you have 50% possession compared to another club, you're probably going to make twice as many tackles as them, aren't you, really? So they can be distorted, but he's always been very high up on those stats, hasn't he, going back to his first spell. Yeah, I think it's good. 2 years, he signed a 2-year deal last time at his age. It'd be interesting to see what is it 2 years or a year and
like
extension. But I think it reflects his performances so far. They're obviously confident about his fitness, because when he gets to mid-30s, going back to health, your form can fall off a cliff, can't it?
Those thigh injuries.
Especially when he gets his, because of his type of game he plays. It's interesting as well. I think he was holding a lot of cards, wasn't he? It's just a Gueye in this negotiation, because I think we needed him possibly more than he needed us.
Do you think that's down to, not obviously the individual talents of the player will come into it, but as well as the fact that so many players are being out of contract?
And if you were his agent, you'd be saying, well, actually, there's low going. They want a couple to stay just to get that continuity. We're in a good position here to negotiate the best deal for us. And I'm sure that will be reflected in his wage packet, and also the fact that it's 2 years, which is quite a big, what is he, 36, is he?
35.
Yeah, he's 36 in September. That's quite a big contract for somebody of that age who plays in that position.
Yeah, there's definitely been a compromise to it. There's obviously been an agreement on how much he's getting paid.
Yeah,
the sticking point probably would have been, if there was a sticking point, how long.
But that's where we need you need us more than what we need you. Yeah. It's a bit like, I never thought to compare Sam Allardyce and Idrissa Gueye. Allardyce played the same card, didn't he? In 2018, where they only wanted to give him 1 year with the club. He said, like, listen, if you wanted to do it, come in to do a job for whatever length of time to the end of the season, I know it's going to be the end of the season, but I want 2 years if you want me to do that. And I think Gueye's length of contract reflects the fact that actually he's wanted by us. And I think it's a good deal, but it means we can probably bring somebody else, hopefully, in the midfield, because we look a bit light, don't we?
Yeah.
In midfield, as much as what he played well on Sunday, and James Garner's been functional. We are a bit light with Mangala going back, and it would be. We've got Harrison Armstrong, but he's still a young lad, isn't he? It would be interesting to see what we do in the midfield area, but it removes a bit of doubt, doesn't it? Really, around who's going to stay and not.
I mean, age does catch up with us all, but he does seem a player who looks after himself. He does seem extremely fit.
Yeah.
Any niggling injuries that he may have, he seems to get over quickly. That's all a positive. But I guess there will come a point where he probably thinks to himself, I'm not good enough for this level, or
and he may not be a guaranteed starter.
I was going to say, how many games would you expect him to play?
If he's fit, he's played 30 plus 1,000 games for us every year. He's been here.
It's a lot.
Yeah, which is a lot. Whether he plays 30 odd next season is debatable. They may just want him 2 years just to be in and around the squad and come in. But such as his levels of performance, and the irony being, I'm not a great Gueye fan. I thought he was a bit overrated in his first spell, but he's developed quite a bit, I think, in terms of his passing, certainly. Since he's come back
on his shots.
Yeah,
maybe.
Absolutely. And I think, they might, if he's felt fit enough, and we've got, maybe the options not there elsewhere, he may play a lot of games next year. To be fair, if his fitness is up to it.
Yeah, it's. I think for me the biggest thing, putting aside his actual talents and what he does for the team, I just think numbers wise was the big thing for me. If he was to go, then what are you looking at spending on replacing him?
Yeah.
You're looking at spending millions of pounds on replacing a player who can do a job for you at least for like another 12 months, 18 months.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You could say that about a lot of players, couldn't you, who are leaving, but in his case, it's definitely true. And I think it'll be interesting to see what plans they got for him over them 2 years. I think it's an interesting thing here as well. Is like and this is something that we need to take account of in our new. When we're looking at deals during the summer, Moyes is on a 2-year deal, isn't he? Got 2 years left on his contract. And I mentioned Jimmy Cyril the other week. He was a very old school manager. And some of the advice that I used to give out about, always buy players who, are going to play every week. And Alex Ferguson always used to go to him as, to get some advice. And Cyril's told Ferguson, and I remember Ferguson saying this, that as a manager, always avoid the situation where your contract ends when the player's contract ends, because it knackers you when you get into the final year. Because they know that you're going, and you know that they're going, and so there's no wiggle room there between you. There's a stalemate, and that's what done for Dice really last season. And he's got like 8, 10, 12 players out of contract. They know that he's going. He knows that they're going.
So that, didn't we?
Where'd you go from there? And so what we need to avoid is a situation where, I know it's difficult to say, don't give 2-year deals out. Because what you don't want in the situation in 2 years' time, but I think it's pretty established fact. And it may change that Moyes on, we'll see out for 2 years and then move on. We've then got Moyes going in 2 years' time and a load of players going again in 2 years' time. So we need to avoid that position. So it would be interesting to see what contract length to give to players, because we just don't want a repeat of what happened to Dyche, and going back to the Ferguson thing. It just becomes terribly awkward in the last year if your deal and the players' deal runs out at the same time.
I think ideally the club probably wouldn't have wanted to give him 2 years, but that probably is the
he's holding a lot of cards.
No, exactly as you said.
Absolutely.
And he's you can't, for a player who's just won men's player of the season and players player of the season, you couldn't just let him drift off and go off into the sunset to Saudi or anything like that.
Well, the choice he's got, he's got options as well, hasn't he, really?
I think 2 years, he's still got an opportunity to go there as well.
Keeps his fitness and maintains his form. He has done this season, and that's true, yeah.
The one big thing for me about him is that his role in the team. You know exactly what he's meant to be doing when he's in the first 11. And there's other players who we've discussed at length on the, James Garner, Tim Iroboom. We're not quite sure what their role is in the club yet. So, in a way, other than probably like Branthwaite, Tarkowski, Pickford, he's one of the first names on the team sheet for me, because you know exactly what his job and what his role is.
At the moment, with the options we've got in midfield, but that might change if you buy somebody else, mightn't it?
Yeah.
So they may come in and say, right, okay, I'm just throwing it out there. So Moyes might say, I want a number 6. Because Garner Gueye, for all his attributes, is not a number 6. So that means if you bring a number 6 in, say, plays in front of the defence, takes the ball off the back four and on a half term and distributes it around. And, we've only played without that really in the last 10 years, being Fabian Delph. Is Garner Gueye's role changes?
Gareth Barry?
Yeah, well, Gareth Barry, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's not 10 years.
Yeah, it is. He has played for us, but he's joined in the last 10 years, yeah. But and so that sort of takes away some of Garner Gueye's duties at the moment. So if he was in the team, he'd have to play a slightly different role to what he's playing.
More of just a
destroyer. Have a number 8 even, So a bit like Kante ended up playing at Chelsea. So we know his role at the moment, but that might change depending on what other options we take into account for what we want for our midfield, So I don't know. I think we may. Here's a question for you: if you brought a midfielder, what role would you think you'd like to see them play?
As in, like a priority.
Yeah, whether you see a 6, an 8, 6 in front of the defence, an 8 box to box, or a 10 sort of creative type stuff.
Well,
what do you think we need?
I don't know about numbers, but I know we need someone who's comfortable
on the ball,
who can hold the ball up. Yeah. Obviously, someone who can pass, short range passing, long range passing. We've seen it briefly. James Garner managed to get a through ball into Beto for the Leicester game. Yeah. That sort of thing
which we haven't got at all.
We haven't got it in quality anyway. Yeah. Whether you can put James Garner in that, I don't know. Yeah. Question marks over whether he can do that consistently.
Yeah, and he still looks a little bit lightweight for me, Garner. I think within that, if you bring any of them in, a 6 would really change the way Garner Gueye plays. If you brought an 8 in, somebody who's a little bit more advanced, possibly not.
But Iroboom could potentially do that. I think he's maybe a little bit too indisciplined at this moment in time to play a little bit deeper. Yeah. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we should get this player, and I don't think we will. We're not going to get him because he's going to Arsenal. But in the same mould as maybe like a Martin Zubimendi, Liverpool were after him, weren't they? They were after him, and then they settled with Gravenberch, Liverpool, to an extent. So that sort of mould of a player. I know what you mean.
So that change. If you do that, that changes Garner Gueye's role, and then you take away. You take away something then probably. So it'd be interesting to see how Moyes sees the shape, because he's been linked with, say, Souček, hasn't he? And how he sees that playing out, and that might change. And so it's good news, though, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's good news, because we didn't want to lose everybody.
No, that was my concern, and I mentioned it on Wednesday. The amount of players out of contract, which we know has been coming. Everyone's kind of been, not everyone, some fans have been kind of like, well, they just need to go. Decore needs to go. Keane needs to go. For me, say for instance, if we kept Keane as like the say like the fourth
centre
half, that wouldn't bother me too much because what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to let Keane go, and then you'll have Tarkowski, Branthwaite, and O'Brien.
Yeah.
Okay, they're the three main ones. And you're going to need a fourth,
and you pay money for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's unless the whole point.
Unless you got a loan deal in, yeah. But yeah, so some of those players are holding cards. I mean, it's good. I think we'll talk about Alcaraz in a bit, but it's good that out of the players who are going, it looks like the top two that supporters wanted to stay are going to be staying.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to be fair, I think they would have been my choices to stay, and
including Alcaraz in that. You mean?
Yeah, Alcaraz and Gueye. Yeah, the two that's good. I think then you can see, and it's not necessarily due to the fact. Actually, I thought Keane plays really well on Sunday. They actually quite looked a decent partnership, Keane and O'Brien. I don't think Isaac was fit. I think you can get your argument on Keane. What's the point of going and buying a £20 million centre half?
But it's the same. But
Gueye's going to play, and you're going to bring somebody in to play that role, aren't you? If you're fourth choice centre half, you don't really want to be spending money for him to sit on the bench all season. Or if you're chasing the goal, stick him up front.
Just depends what Keane wants to do.
He's had offers, I believe, hasn't he?
And we're not going to offer him the exact same terms to be fourth choice defender? No. Is he going to want to accept those terms? Probably not. Similar to Decore.
No, and he's within his rights to move elsewhere, and good luck to him. And that, some of these deals, it depends on what happens. I mean, it's not a given that Branthwaite's going to stay, is it?
Well,
you mentioned Branthwaite, didn't you? There, so there's the movable parts in all of these moves. Are many, aren't they?
I was just looking at the comments to see the backlash from me Michael Keane comments, and just saying I'd keep him as a fourth choice defender. Let's not forget he does score goals as well, some vital goals by the way. I don't want to turn this into a full on let's keep Michael Keane podcast because that's not what it's going to be. I think my point is that if the option was for him to be there as a fourth choice and he knew that he was the fourth choice, then I think. It's a viable option.
So because the argument for keeping Keane therefore becomes if Keane goes and we have to buy somebody for 20 million or whatever, that stops us strengthening elsewhere.
Exactly.
We're going
to need a right back, aren't we?
Yeah, where the need is probably greater than a fourth choice centre half. So I think, as much as I can see why people Keane has a stigma attached to him, and you can understand that. You can, and I can see why people want him to go. There's also a very strong argument, isn't it, that he
getting some positive comments.
If he stays.
Well, in favour of what I said, Shelley Toffee Blues says keep him as fourth choice, thumbs up, and Emma EFC says makes sense to keep Keane as fourth choice, spend elsewhere.
Yeah.
Gaspipe says Keane can play up front.
Yeah, exactly.
We might need him to play up front, mightn't we?
Yeah. But when we've done these podcasts, isn't it, as soon as the one name to guarantee a load of the comments on the feed, isn't it? Mention Michael Keane's name.
They're all coming in here.
Yeah.
Terry Dactyl says, any player who wants to stay as a fourth choice is a player with a bad mentality. It's not a bad point.
I can see that because at that age you probably want to play every week because you've earned your money. Competitive, you want to play competitive football. That's not untrue, is it, as well? It's like, isn't it, like second choice goalkeepers, isn't it? That you're going to stay on the bench, but surely you'd want to play. People throw those accusations out.
I just think in this day and age, and it's not even this day and age, because it's probably happened so many times, it's just that squads are so much bigger now. Injuries happen all the time. You could take a risk, and this is not just Keane, you could take a risk at either staying with the club or, say, for instance, like Delap, which we'll come on to. It's not a risk to go to Chelsea, but he might not be starting every single game, but he's going to get opportunities. If we're going to use Keane as the example, he could get an opportunity knowing well that suspensions and injuries are going to play the part throughout the season.
Yeah, possibly. And it depends what happens with Branthwaite. I mean, and also as well, Tarkowski was possibly going to be injured at the start of the season. Well,
Moyes suggested that he might not be ready for pre-season.
Yeah, and he going back to aging men's health, which is the theme of this podcast. He might not come back.
I'm fit as a fiddle, Gav. I don't know about you.
I'm talking about certain members of the podcast. He might not come back 100% fit, might he? You know, he might start picking up injuries.
So, it's a good point, because I have a fear that an injury like this, because he hasn't been injured for God knows how long. He's been so consistent in how he plays. An injury like this, after playing so well, could have a really bad detrimental effect.
Absolutely.
On your
psychology as well, yeah.
So
though you're saying, we've got Branthwaite, Tarkowski and O'Brien ahead of his four. I thought, so I just think we're now bringing back to the argument we should get a new fourth centre half. You know, of them three, one's still relatively unproven. It's Premier League's only played a few games. The other one is injured at this moment in time, and the other one may be sold. So maybe it's not as not. It's not as clear cut as saying you should just go. Is it? It's not as static as what you think, is it really? And set in stone. So interesting.
Well, we'll come on to Carlos Alcaraz before we come on to Liam Delap. Obviously, you've mentioned Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Everton have activated the €50 million release clause from Flamengo, and the deal, as we understand, comes with a €3 million add-ons as part of the package. Some suggestion that the deal has to be signed today.
I don't know. I've not heard that.
Someone in the newsroom said that it has to be signed today as part of that release clause. So we might get something today.
All clauses are negotiable.
No, absolutely.
I mean, I might be wrong there, but there's flexibility there.
I think I was thinking that we might get news today of some sort of confirmation.
During the pod?
Maybe, you never know. Keep Twitter
should
open.
Have a tick, on the bottom of the pod, on the transfers.
I mean, Moyes, I don't think was initially sold on Alcaraz when I know he came in when Moyes came in as well, but I think it was a Thelwell signing more than anything. But yet Moyes not initially sold him because let's face it, in his team selections, he wasn't picking him every single game.
He had this picking him for the first team and, drive and, that could end up forcing into buying him.
But he was, in a way, he was shoehorning him into the team at times, wasn't he? I think there was the first occasion where he played as the number 10 was against Crystal Palace away, which we did win, and he played well and he scored. But ever since then, really, Doucouré was getting the nod, and Alcaraz was either playing on the right or the left. But I think the last couple of weeks, the last couple of games, probably knowing the fact that Doucouré was leaving, Moyes has kind of put him in the team, and obviously the deal looks like could be over the line.
Yeah, and it's one that I'd welcome.
Yeah, I think
everybody would, really. He was outstanding, I thought, at Newcastle, and there was comparisons there has been with Tim Cahill, especially with the goal. Did you get me stats on Monday, by the way?
Go on, what was it?
About the only two Everton players in our history whose first 2 goals for the club were away winners.
Well, Tim Cahill was Man City, wasn't it? Away from home. Yeah.
And Alcaraz.
Okay. Well, there's another.
Yeah, Tim Cahill at Man City comparison. Portsmouth in 2004, and Alcaraz at Palace, and on Sunday, the only 2 players in our history. 2 players who people draw comparisons.
Do you remember that Tim Cahill goal got sent off?
Put his shirt over his head. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but
another Everton first.
Yeah. I think there's been a few over the years, but no, I think I like Alcaraz. He's not what I would like to say is a Moyes type player in terms of he's somebody who likes to run with the ball. He's got a bit of flair about him. I'm not saying that Moyes haven't been unfair with that, actually. In terms of the role he plays, if he plays the number 10, you wouldn't say he's an archetypal Moyes number 10 player.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. But he had a great head in the first half, by the way. That the goal he tipped over, which was very Cahill-esque when he came into the box late. And I think he's got I'll draw a comparison with Cahill in that he's got a lot more to his game, I think.
I'd say he's technically better on the ball than Cahill.
Yeah. But not having Cahill's experience. I think he is one mate. I think Matt Jones of this Paris was saying this week that, and he's right, is that he needs to take more care on the ball. There's been several occasions where we've had the break and he's had the ball and he's either lost it or he's chosen the wrong option.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that needs to be worked on. That will come with experience as well, and known players, out the runs people make and so on. So
certainly better than what we've got at this moment in time.
And for the fee, when you can see what what's charged elsewhere for players who on face value look inferior to him. I think the fee's a bit of a steal. And it's low risk, isn't it? Because you know you're going to get your money back for him.
Why do you think that is? Do you think, like, in terms of the price that Flamengo were happy to let him go for?
I don't know what's in his contract. Has he got a release clause in his contract for that amount?
Obviously, that is a release clause.
You know,
but if you were going to put a release clause in, you'd put it in something stupid, wouldn't you?
Depends on lots of movable parts here with agents and stuff. Look at Delap, who we're talking about. You know, what did reckon Ipswich will make £1 million out of it or something? So I think he's one of them Richarlison players that fans, unlike Kyle, that fans become quite quickly attached to.
Yeah,
because they're a little bit prickly, a little bit hard on the sleeve, a little bit get into opponents' faces possibly, and I think if and when we do get him, I think he's a great sign for us, and I think hopefully he'll do well and not flourish and develop under Moyes, and you can see him, you know, if he did well, you could see him becoming a really good player. I
think what we need from him more than anything is goals and assists. I think.
Well, he's had quite a few assists and goals, but they've all been away from home, hasn't he? Haven't he? I mean, it's like Kyle, isn't it? All Kyle's best moments that Everton came away from home. I mean, no, he never scored. Technically, somebody would dispute this, but he never scored the Premier League winner at Goodison. Kyle, all his winners were away from home.
Not the Newcastle game. In the Champions League?
Yeah, well...
sorry, for when we qualified for the Champions League. Did he score the winner?
Yeah. No, David Ray scored. Made it 1-0, yeah.
No, we won 2-0 against Newcastle.
Yeah,
I need to check this.
That's not a winner, though, is it? A winner to me is if you take the goal away, the game becomes a draw. That's a winner.
I'm still going to check it.
Yeah. So somebody mentioned, and quite legitimately, I get this, when we played Charlton in 2006, it was 1-1 and Kyle scored the second goal and third goal, so that should count. And I said, I sort of get your point. But a winner for me is the vital goal of the game. If you take away the goal, it becomes a draw. And all KOs were away from home. He scored 2 winners in other competitions.
So,
we're not going to spend all podcast.
You're right. Kyle and Weir scored.
Yeah.
So did Weir score the second goal? Did he?
No, Weir scored the first.
Right. We're back to.
So you understand what I'm saying by a winning goal? That if you take the goal away, the game becomes a draw.
Kyle scored the winner, though, Gav.
Come on, not a winner. I don't remember any match report saying Kyle scored the winner. You know,
I'm just trying to read. Sorry, I was just trying to read the comments with a little bit of quietness there.
Yeah. No, but I can. No, seriously, going back to the point though, there are similarities, and I don't think they're not unjustified. To be fair, that you can see both in terms of their manner, the look, the style of play, particularly in the opposition box. They have got some similarities, but I think Charlie's got a bit more to his game.
Yeah, he's similar, but I do think he's different. I know, like, people are saying it's KL-esque, and it was like the header was against Newcastle. I think he's going to bring a completely different style.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And but playing at 10, but if he did, you know, that throws up the age-old question about is Njai's a 10 and so on. It would be an untypical Moyes 10.
I just think he quickly needs to find out his best and ideal position for us, whether that is the number 10. I don't particularly fancy him on the wings. I think we've got better players who can play in the wings.
He chips in, doesn't he?
Too much. And I just think he's more impactful in the centre. So for me, it's either going to be the number 10, or would you bring him back as a slightly a lower, deeper holding midfielder?
In his first game, didn't he end up playing that in the derby when he came on?
I'm talking replacing replace James Garner.
Charlie, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think. I think you need a bit more defensive steel.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly as an 8. I don't know. It's just. I take your point though in that. He's a player of moments, isn't he? I think a little bit, and a player of moments you always have is your number 10, not as your out wide where you've got to work hard a lot more. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see because where he ends up playing. Bear in mind we've also let go Harrison, Lindstrom, so we've got no right winger, have we? So that's another area of the pitch behind the striker that needs work doing on it. And a bit like Garner Gueye, whoever you bring in may change the role that Moyes has got put in, got plans for him for next season.
Fingers crossed. Just the promise and the potential's there.
It's a good deal.
I just hope that it's not one of them where in 12 to 18 months' time you go, oh, that's why he was only 12 million.
But it's no risk because you're going to get your money back on him, aren't you?
Hopefully, he's got a long Everton career ahead of him.
He's young. He's got a long, he's got
goals and assists. That's what I want from our attacking players. Yeah. Even for all the, the good work and fantastic season in Jai's had. He hasn't had many assists, if any. I don't think he scored a couple of goals, and if it wasn't for Beto,
he scored more than a couple. Hasn't he? He's got 9, has he, in the Premier League?
If it wasn't for Beto, we'd be
our top scorer. Yeah. He's been injured for about 10 games.
Look, I'm not slagging him off. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying with Njai is that what our vision of him as a player. I mean, he's talking about playing number 10 and being constructive. Is actually when you see him, he's not that type of player, is he? Really, he gets you up the pitch. I mean, the strength on Sunday. I mean, he looked fully fit on for the first time since he come back on Sunday. His strength on the ball and making out of positions where he's trapped.
His turn is incredible.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. But he gets you up the pitch. He scores goals, but it's not the right comparison. But there's a little bit, and in the position he plays as well in the team, there's a little bit of Morales in him. In that Morales was a different player. He was far speedier. But I would imagine if you look at Morales' career for Everton, there wasn't a lot of assists.
Yeah, I mean,
he was somebody who finished and got you off the pitch and stuff. He had pace, but he wasn't.
End product, you mean?
Yeah, you don't think of him as a creative player, do you? And
he would look, if he had the ball, he would look to just run towards goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than be creative. I know what you mean.
He's not gonna come in and like a number 10 and lay the ball off and put somebody in. And those not the same players. Morales, I would imagine if you have a look at his stats and stuff, they'll probably say a similar thing.
I like Morales. I think towards the end of his Everton career,
don't
maybe
tell Tony Scott that.
Flattered to deceive. I always think he probably could have done a little bit better, Everton, Morales.
Oh yeah, he underachieved that man. Yeah. But that's why he ended up at us because he had so much talent, didn't he, Morales? He could play up front, centre forward, or he could play both wings. He could go both ways, dribbling past players. He had pace. He could finish. He had a lot more to his game really than what he made of, I think, in the end. But that's why he ended up at Everton.
Okay, just some comments on what we've just been speaking about, Alcaraz. Willow HD, 12.6 million is a steal in the market today for a player of that quality.
Yeah.
And John Ryan says, Ghana could improve with the core out of the way. If Alcaraz is the 10, he could make a difference to how Jimmy could play. He is linked nicely with Beto already, which I agree with that. I think he has. I think there's been signs of him and Beto.
Alcaraz and Beto, yeah. Never thought you'd be saying that, would you, 3 months ago?
Well,
it's a reflection on both players.
I've backed Beto to the hilt since.
Yeah, I know. I've watched and heard the podcasts. That's what podcasts are for, yeah.
I'm so interested as to who's going to start as the number 1 striker for Everton next season. I mean, we'll come on to Delap now, but whether we bring in a new striker who is going to overtake Beto as the main one, or we bring in again another understudy of sorts. I don't know.
But this goes back to the centre halves, and got Chimisi still in the mix, haven't we? We haven't discussed Calvert-Lewin. I mean, a lot of this will depend on
this is
what
why
happens.
Transfer dilemma.
Yeah.
That's the
big
title headline.
The dilemma is length of contract. That's the thing. It's not just the players, the length of contracts. The dilemma. Don't avoid the position where they all finish when Moyes finishes.
Yeah.
I think Calvert-Lewin comes into it, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So that just appears to be, tumbleweed, doesn't it? Really. And I think. Do you think Beto's made the case that actually he's now in the position of where I think maybe 3 or 4 months ago people were saying if we get an offer for him we'd sell straight away. Do you think
January he was nearly on the verge of leaving?
Do you think there's a position now actually keep him?
Yes, because Calvert-Lewin's injured, and like you said, the only other striker we've got is an unproven Chimiti.
But regardless about what goes on elsewhere, comings and goings,
I think
Chimiti could go on loan, Calvert-Lewin could go elsewhere. Regardless of where his role is in the pecking order, just keep him because he's offering us a lot at the moment.
It's not like his contract running out and he's on the verge of going on a free.
He got 1 year or 2.
I think if an offer was to come in for him, it would have to be more than what we paid for him.
Yeah, so you're making a profit on it. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're in that position now. The ball is in our court for that to happen.
And so I think he's not done himself any harm, and he's not done. And
he's improved.
Yeah, and sometimes what is he, 26, 27? You don't really see big improvements of players at that age, just purely because that's the way you learn, isn't it? Playing football like anything else.
Is it clear that he's never really been taught how to do certain things as a striker?
What your role is, what role you've played, and his hold-up play in general physicality on Sunday, as I was saying, that's what the Newcastle Forum said. I thought he was very impressive. He didn't score. And he's ended up, it's that mad stat, he's got a better goal scoring rate than Delap, is he, last season? His goals per minute is quite high, isn't it? Even though he does look unsuited, doesn't he, as you say, as somebody's not being told before.
I think sometimes when
how to play a striker's role,
you play in a lesser level of football.
Yeah.
Whether that comes from your amateur days and you move up. I know he played in Italy.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a level of quality there. This is more maybe when he was playing before he came to Italy. You might get more space in certain areas of the game, and for it's probably benefited him to be able to just run onto the ball, take players on. He's never really had to hold the ball up in that part of his career.
Football,
exactly, where the Premier League, you have to do a mix of everything, don't you?
Yeah, and I think you can see it's interesting, isn't it? You would have expected Dice to have been on that, wouldn't you? Really, you can give him the way Dice plays, how he wants his strikers to play, but it's taken Moyes to come in. And this says possibly more about Moyes' coaching capability, even though he's not great with strikers, over the years, has he? He looks a player who's gone up a notch, doesn't he, really? And you know what, as well, he's like scoring goals helps your confidence, doesn't it?
That's the thing.
That's if you're in a winning team and you're scoring goals, you just look a better player. And he did well on Sunday, and he has done well most of Moyes' time, hasn't he, really? Reflected in his goals tally. And some games where he's played well, but not got on the score sheet like Sunday.
That was my argument to certain people or some people a couple of weeks back when Beto did go off the boil.
Yeah,
but
the team was off the boil as well.
The team was off the boil. It was a tough run. It was more April time.
Yeah,
and the argument previously when we had Calvert-Lewin was, well, we need a striker to score goals. Calvert-Lewin's doing the job for the team. He can hold the ball up.
Yeah.
When Calvert-Lewin goes out injured and Beto comes in, he starts scoring goals, but he can't. He's struggling to hold the ball up and maybe do a job for the team. Yeah. It's like, what do you want? It's very difficult
you want
to
both,
get.
Ideally,
you want both,
but
what's that going to cost you?
Yeah, well,
you do want both.
Yeah.
But his secret weapon seemingly was to keep scoring goals, and he's done that. Other than just a little spell where he went off the boil, where he did miss a couple of chances. But
Brentford
strikers,
away missed a load, didn't
Brentford, Liverpool, strikers missed chances.
He was unlucky against Southampton, was it? He had a couple of disallowed goals, great finishes. He's unlucky against Southampton all day. He's had three great finishes before being disallowed. He had one down there, didn't he? Yeah, so I think what I'm saying is I think the good thing about that, it means we've got enough can keep Beto rather than saying, "Oh, we need to sell him and get somebody else in." But whoever really stands in the pecking order for being for being our number one striker, I think he's made a good argument that should just keep him anyway.
Yeah, just for consistency.
Yes, absolutely, and then just see what happens elsewhere. But he's certainly put himself in a position where next season his expectation will be, I'm going to be at worst the second choice striker.
I think you look at it as well. We'll come on to Delap here. It's not like we need to sell Beto to raise funds. We were already looking like we were going to sign or wanting to sign Delap and pay 30 million for him. Whether that was buying a player and then selling Beto on after the fact, I don't know. But the positive sign is there that we were after a striker regardless of Beto's future anyway. Yeah. I mean, just on Delap, obviously Everton have missed out on him, Gav.
Like a number of clubs have.
Yeah, exactly. Look, he's going to Chelsea. He's gone to Chelsea. He's rejected the likes of United, Newcastle, Everton, long-term deal, and he said that their manager in Champions League football was the big pull for that, rather than using Everton maybe as a stepping stone. He's gone straight to,
and
the source with Chelsea.
He's mates about from the Man City days, and he knows mates about Palmer and stuff. So and you've got always the London factor.
Well, are you disappointed, or was it not expectations being high anyway?
Over that,
no.
I'm more. What did puzzle me on this is how news got out that we were incested.
Well, Moyes was openly talking about
it. Not necessarily
not the Moyes way, is it?
Moyes way, really. And I think is that just a PR thing? We're just trying to give the fans some comfort that we are now in the world of being able to put in bids for the likes of Delap. Is it just sort of giving fans a little bit of good news, making them comfortable?
We had this conversation on Wednesday, me and Connor, about like expectation.
Yeah.
And like, what was the way to go with raising expectation?
Yeah, and it can backfire, can't it, if it ends up doing it? It's a bit like, many years ago in the mid-90s, we were supposedly after Stan Collymore, which we had a lucky escape there, didn't we, really, because he never worked out for him at Liverpool. And we're supposedly in the mix for Alan Shearer. There was no way that Shearer was coming to Everton. But Peter Johnson had that out there that actually we have tabled a club record bid.
Yeah, we offered 12 while Newcastle offered 15, wasn't it?
And something that happened similar with Collymore, really. And it looks good, but you can only do it once. Don't do it like 2 or 3 times.
If you keep missing out on targets.
You can do it once. You can say, we'll make it public. But if it becomes 2 or 3 times, which is what happened, say, at Everton, even under Joe Royle, where they were after like Chris Armstrong and people like that in after we won the cup after '95, we missed out on Collymore and Chris Armstrong, in the same summer, where we were publicly saying we're in, and they went, and to other clubs. So, I think it's the type of thing, okay, if you want to make fans feel uncomfortable and think, Everton on the way back, great, but only do it once, don't do it again.
Maybe there was confidence within the club,
possibly,
that he could use Everton as a stepping stone. Maybe he thought in his own mind that going from Ipswich to, again, a Chelsea would be maybe a bit too much for him.
That he might have thought for 2 years.
He might have thought that himself. Yeah. Look, what's going to happen is there's going to be 2 things that are going to happen. He'll either be a success and he'll score goals and it'll be the right decision for him, or he will falter and within 18 months to 2 years, he will just end up going out on loan, because no one is going to match his wages that he's on now at Chelsea, and no one really is going to be able to afford him, or at least take a punt on him.
No, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I mean,
Tony Scott will, if he's listening.
Yeah, but I thought it was a bit of an odd one off Moyes. I mean, the good thing for us within that, though, isn't it, is when we get into the realms of PSR and what money we've got to spend, is if we can go out and pay 30 million quid for the striker, well, that means we can go out and pay 30 million quid for another player, which has not necessarily been the case over the last couple of years, has it?
No.
With possibly a few others as well. So I think that's the other comfort I'd take from that thing about going after the Delap.
Eltel on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey YouTube channel says, I would rather have Richarlison than Delap.
Richarlison.
No. Say that quietly, Gav.
Yeah. But that, no, I mean, that's just one of the things that held us back for so many years is our, looking back at the past and bringing back, loving that type of player. Rooney's one of them, isn't he? Would be a prime example. Duncan Ferguson in 2000 would be another of that love we have for that type of player and deal. Bring him back. It's a good news story. They love Everton, all this type of thing. And in reality, a lot of time it doesn't work. And being nostalgic, and that doesn't work.
European trophy winner, though. Started in the final. Are you going to swear then? It sounded like you were going to swear.
No, I wasn't going to swear, mate. I was going to say, for God's sake, yeah. But no. It means I know he's actually been injured, hasn't he? A lot of spares.
We've had his best years, haven't we?
Yeah. I'd argue, I know he's had a good season this year. There's an argument to say that Lukaku's best years with a Goodison, couldn't he, really? I know he's won the title this year. But no, Richarlison, no. Full stop. It's the type of deal, and this is controversial, type of deal and fans' favourite, wants him back. It's the type of thing that's held us back in the past. If we want to create something different at Bramley-Moore, we have to move away from that thinking.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. However, if he does come back, I'm fully behind him. You got to be, haven't you?
Did you see a loan deal?
Probably, yeah. It's probable if Tottenham are... well, it depends what Tottenham do with the manager, doesn't it, if they want to...
Yeah.
And I think Ange quite likes him, to be honest, because he has, when he's fit, he's played.
Well, the important phrase there is when he's fit. That's the, going back to the old Jimmy Cyril thing, you want players going to play for you every week.
Yeah.
And he ain't going to be playing for us every week.
And Idrissa Gueye is one of those players.
Well, exactly.
I'm just conscious, I've just looked at the time and got a few other things to discuss.
Right,
I think transfer dilemma, I've kind of labelled the podcast on a bit of transfer dilemma.
And it is?
Basically...
everywhere?
Obviously, with Delap going, you would hope, or you would expect Everton to have other transfer targets in mind. So hopefully that is the case. But at what point does the club basically maybe go back to Calvert-Lewin if they can't land other targets? Bearing in mind that his contract's up, he's free to speak to anyone right now. Other clubs are probably going to come in for him as well. So are we on a bit of a ticking clock here, on a bit of a deadline?
Well, but everybody is, isn't it? The player is, isn't he?
From within the club, though, to think, right, well, we're looking for a main striker to bring in, and obviously Delap would have been that player. If we can't get that main striker, do we then bring in an understudy? And if we can't even bring in the understudy, at what point do we go back to Calvert-Lewin?
Well, you hear stories that, that the talking, still there's talks are ongoing to him. With him, and would you want Calvert-Lewin to stay?
Again, there's so many moving parts to this, isn't there? I think if we were to start the season without Calvert-Lewin and we had Beto, Schmidt and another striker, I mean, I can imagine people in the comments saying we need another striker on top of that as well.
Calvert-Lewin's he's had some decent spells for us, but. Yeah, again,
I think it's time to go.
I think it's time to go, isn't it? Really, there is an argument to say that really he's wasted. Well, I've said this on the pod many times. Is I personally think he's been badly advised. He should have either signed the contract or moved to another club last year. He's wasted 12 months of his career. At his peak, this is his peak years. He's wasted 12 months, and he may not get a deal now in the summer as what he could have got last year, and. He's now entering into period, going back to our men's health subject, that he's now going towards, he's closer to the end of his career than what he is to the start. And we want to give him a contract at big money for somebody who's injury prone when they maybe got out of their peak years or going out of the peak years during that contract. So the answer to that is no for me.
Speaking to a Newcastle fan recently last week before the game, a lot of Newcastle fans don't want him either because they know that of his injury record and they're just replacing one injury prone second striker for another one.
And if you're gonna be injury prone, at least when you do play, score goals. And so you've got a player who doesn't score goals who's injury prone. So I can see why the club offered him a contract last year, and from what you hear, it's still on the table. But I think it would be the best for everybody, wouldn't it? It would give us some clearer options, wouldn't it, about what we want up front if Calvert-Lewin goes. So we've just got to watch this space. Yeah, that they are still talking to him, but that deal might not come to fruition if he gets a better offer elsewhere.
Okay, very quickly, Everton confirmed the season awards. Did you see? Men's Player of the Year, Idrissa Gueye. Players Player of the Year, Idrissa Gueye. Young Player of the Year, Jarrod Branthwaite. And Goal of the Season, James Tarkowski. Do you agree with all of those? Obviously,
the only thing I disagree with there, I always think it's like Young Player of the Year is it 23 that season or something? It's like, when you have the PFA. I mean, that's ridiculous. Somebody 23, young player. Come on. You've got to take a year off that at least, a year or two. I mean...
Okay.
Yeah, Branthwaite's been at the club.
So you don't agree with it then?
I've not got a problem with Branthwaite getting it. What I've got a problem is giving the young player the year to somebody who made his Everton debut 5 years ago.
Right. Okay, take Branthwaite out of it then, just in your opinion, young player of the year, who who was there. I don't think there's
I think he's,
that's why he's got it.
Well, the way it's going, Ashley Young, we should have got it, shouldn't he, really?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, he's sad to see Young go, by the way.
Yeah.
Very sad. I think he is...
Turned his Everton career around, didn't he? Like, to an extent.
Yeah, I don't see he didn't lose a lot in the first place, but he did have a ropey start to the season.
I know, but
got
I don't
sent
want
off, didn't he? I sad to see him go. I don't know about the circumstances. It sounds as if he rejected an offer, but absolutely top professional. You know, I always say that he thinks differently to everybody else in that team because that's just the way he is. I say somebody saying about, you know what you're going to get from Young 100% every game, but like that's a given on him. You know, he will give you 100%. You know, we shouldn't be surprised at that. That's just in his nature. That's what makes him a winner. That's what makes Alex Ferguson sign him. You know, he didn't become a top pro. You know, since he went to Man United, he was a top pro of Villa, top pro. But that's why Ferguson signed him.
Yeah, well, he became a winner at United, didn't he?
Well, no, he was a winner before then. That's why Ferguson doesn't sign people who are losers. He signs people who's winners.
No, I know. But
he may not have won anything, but it's just in his general attitude and demeanour and the way he handles himself on the pitch and stuff. You know, Ferguson seen a winner when he was at Aston Villa, as we know. We found out to our cost on a couple of occasions. So his mentality is completely different to the rest of the team. And on that basis, I'd be sad to see him go because we need people like that in the dressing room. Plus, he could probably do a job for us next year. And I'm really disappointed he's gone. To be fair,
listen, when I say he turned his Everton career around, I don't want to like rewrite history and say his Everton career was all positive. There was a lot of ups and downs, and you know for a fact,
terrible mistakes.
No, but you know, anytime that team news came out in the early part, it was like Ashley Young's on. There was a couple of groans and murmurs. However, he was the right back for the season just gone, and he has been fantastic.
The best game he played for was when he played on wide right against Newcastle in the 3-0 win. The season before last.
I remember it well.
I was sad to see him go. Top professional winner. You want people like that round the club. His attitude is faultless, and you know we obviously enjoyed his time here from what he was posting, and he's been good. Been good in the media when he's done media, hasn't he, Young? And you can see him forging a path there. But I was disappointed. I'll always have a soft spot for Young, not necessarily for that last minute goal for Aston Villa in 2008, but he was good there.
Again, it just means that we're going to have to be in the market for a right back, doesn't it?
Well, yeah,
definitely. How long have we been saying we need a right back for?
Did you see where he mugged Anthony Gordon on one, proper right back and somebody who can play the right back role? I just thought should have made more effort to keep Young. If he has rejected the wage deal, he
might have wanted the 2 years. We're prepared.
Well, you don't know, dear, but yeah, very sad.
I'm going to finish, but did you want to speak about the stadium?
Yeah. So we spoke. I think a couple of pods ago when I was on, we were talking about the stadium rights deal, and it was announced afterwards with Hill Dickinson.
Friday the 16th of May, it was announced.
Yeah. But we've spoken about it, hadn't we? And I was warning that it sounds great, stadium rights deal. I think of massive deals, but they're not really, and that goes throughout Europe.
I think some fans, from what I could see, because we had Dave Powell on the podcast a while back, and he was like, "Don't expect like 50 million a year. That's just not going to be the case." I think maybe initially some fans maybe thought that was what it was going to be, and when you actually look at the numbers from across Europe, it's still in the top 10 for Europe.
Company who leading authority on stadium rights deals in Europe, what they called? I told you this. Croll.
With a K?
Yeah, the K, yeah, so we should change the name. Unless you're in disguise. Yeah. I mean, Barcelona's the leading one in Europe and they get 16, 17 million a year. I mean, so you're on a massive sliding scale down there. I mean, Arsenal, they can vary, can't they? And because Arsenal say it's tied in with their wider sponsorship, maybe 10, 12 million a year. I mean, the one thing I would stress caution on, and this goes to every sponsorship deal, is when they say it's a 10 million deal, right, okay, that's not going to be guaranteed 10 million. It could go up to 10 million.
Yeah.
Any sponsorship deal that's announced, shared sponsorship, kit deal, whatever, is what's quoted usually is the best case scenario because it just looks good, doesn't it? And so with us, I would imagine the 10 million is basically the top end what can be paid. I think a decent starting point for sponsorship deals is if you halve it and then take it from there. So I would expect the basic for us would be 5 or 6 million, which is still quite a hell of a lot for the stadium deal. And then we'll get, related to cup competitions, maybe finishing the Premier League, all that type of thing. Could take it up higher than that. But I would be very, very surprised looking at other clubs that it's 10 million a year. Very surprised. But it's still a great deal. And also as well with a reputable company as well, with obviously strong connections to the city.
The big question is, are you going to refer to it as the Hill Dickinson Stadium, or are you going to refer to it as something else? A lot of talk about nicknaming it, and whether we just keep referring to it as the Bramley or the Bramley Moor.
Hill Dickey Stadium, yeah. Everton,
the Dixie.
Dixie, yeah, you could, yeah. But it's because you have to be very careful you get as a stadium sponsor, because if it's a long-term deal, if that company becomes a little bit toxic or something like that, or their reputation changes, your reputation changes as a consequence. So you have to be very careful who you choose. And as I was saying, a company with deep roots in the city and the heritage of the city, I think that's a great choice of partner. I'd rather have somebody like them than sacrifice somebody who's not as great reputation. Let's face it, being associated with some of the companies in the past, who gives us an extra couple of million a year. It's not worth it.
Yeah,
I'd rather take the hit and get somebody with a great reputation who fits in with our values and close connections to the club. I think it's a good deal. It's a really good deal what we've got. But I don't think our expectation shouldn't be that next year we'll have like an extra 10 million on the commercial line. I think it'll be slightly less than that. Still a great deal though.
Okay, any final thoughts, Gav, or are we good?
No, we've done everything, haven't we? Tick box, men's health, all that type of stuff, being top of the podcast league. There's so much going on, isn't there, really? And I think what you got to remember as well around transfer is there's effectively 2 transfer windows now, isn't there? There's one that ends on the 30th of June and one that starts on the 1st of July. It will be interesting to see if there's any other type of deals that were done at the end of last season. Yeah. Not by Everton, by anybody else.
Do you mean similar to what we did with Villa?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the mood music and what we've heard is you don't get the impression that the club is panicking over PSR, do you really? And
no.
It would be good to get through to the end of June where we haven't had to sell anybody for PSR purposes, because I don't think from what you hear and read and calculate, you don't think that we possibly need to. Especially the PSR reputation at the moment, isn't it, really?
Well, we've gone over the hour, but it's all been good. It's all been good.
Yeah. Well, talking about my leg issues for the first 5 minutes,
people can skip that, can't they?
Yeah, if they want to. Should do that. Edit the video, till like on YouTube to 5 minutes in, so you don't have to be talking about trochanteric bursitis.
Just in terms of next week, we're going to be back Monday. Hopefully, it's going to be me, Chris, and Joe. We're going to do a bit of a season review. I mean, if you're free, you can come on.
No, I've done my piece now.
You're away now. That's it. Pre-season. Well, not pre-season. It's just a summer break.
Summer break for a couple of days, but So we'll. I'll be back after that. It would just be interesting to see what happens with Charlie, won't it? Is that what we want to?
Yeah. Well, Monday season review. However, there's going to be plenty of transfer news that we'll be able to discuss, and then Wednesday I'll be sat down with Tony Scott as well. So that's just the next 2 shows for next week.
I mumbled there, didn't I? But ask Scotty about Kevin Morales. Draw the NJ Kevin Morales comparison. You see Scotty go mad, yeah. Not his favourite player.
Red in the face.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, well, that is all for today's show. Please remember to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Drop us some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Gav Buckland, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.